All right, let's have a chat and recap the fourth episode of The Real Housewives of New Jersey current season. And again, I'm just going to preface this recap by saying there are no teams here on Bravo Hot Tea. If the housewives do something amazing, we will support them. If they do something shady, we will call them out. That's just how it goes. With that said, you guys, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Let's get into it. So the episode starts with who do we have? Let's see. We have Margaret and what's her name? Jackie. Margaret is talking about how Jen didn't send Jackie her book. Jackie wrote a book about her ED, basically her relationship with food, all that good stuff. Jackie does look healthier and happier, and honestly, that's all that matters. Um, However, she's probably not happy about being a friend of. So, here she is stirring up drama. And apparently, Margaret didn't get a not a pre-order copy, but basically whatever copy the publishing house would send to, I guess, like the media, so they can have like first dibs on it so that they know what to talk about when Jackie is doing interviews with them. So Melissa got a hands on Jackie's book, and I guess like so did some other places that were like, "Hey, Jackie, come on, talk about your book." Yeah, Margaret, maybe if you had a podcast where you were going to have Jackie on to discuss the book, you would also get an early copy of the book. So this to me, I don't know, Margaret is the type of woman like if she does one good thing for you, because in Margaret's case, she makes it seem like she got Jackie the book deal. Even if that's the case, Jackie still had to write the book and do all of that. Like, if you're the type of friend where you do one nice thing for me and then, you're gonna come collect or I am now at your mercy, it's okay. Keep the favor, girl. Like, we're good. One of the other things Margaret was complaining about in regards to Jackie is that it's the 1 year anniversary of her ex-husband Jan's passing, and apparently Jackie doesn't check up on Margaret enough. Like, hey, you know what? It takes two to tango, right? You can't expect one person always checking in on you. And also, you have a whole husband who is, I have to say, this was a very endearing moment between Margaret and Joe Benigno. It is a little weird though. It's like she's married to Joe Benigno, but then she's crying over the passing of her ex-husband. It is a little weird, but hey, you know what? Joe is a very understanding man. I did enjoy the scene with them getting burgers, sitting down, and having this emotional scene. We then see Messy Fessy and Rachel Fuda grab coffee together. Rachel called Jen Fessler, was like, hey, let's, go grab coffee. So they do that. Rachel starts crying, like tissues and all, which was a little odd. And keep in mind, these two women have a 20-year age gap, which, that's fine. In your 30s, you might find yourself acquainted with people that are much older than you, and then they naturally become your friends. It's just odd. It seems like in a year, both families became extremely friendly with one another, like best of buds. And then Jen Fessler being cordial with Teresa. Jen Fessler isn't Jennifer Aydin, Teresa's bestie on the show. All Jen Fessler is trying to do is play Switzerland and like kind of be in the middle and just be cordial. Whereas Rachel is like not having it. And quite frankly, I do think part of it is because of Margaret's influence, because the way Margaret runs is just like with an iron thumb, iron fist, whatever that saying is. It's like all or nothing. And I really don't like that. Like, no, you can't tell people who to be friends with or who to associate with. Now, Jen Fessler, she's like kind of over it. Like she's just not getting why Rachel is like making such a big deal and crying. Like Jen Fessler, she just wants to squash it, but of course, Rachel brings up John Fuda. And Jen Fessler is like, no, I actually stood up for John Fuda during my conversation with Teresa. But then Jen Fessler was like, oh, by the way, Teresa said all those things about John Fuda then, like back in the day, not now. As if that makes it any better. What Teresa said about John Fuda being the biggest drug dealer in Bergen County, and then like all that stuff about adult playtime, I was just like, girl. And then I'm gonna kind of like break the fourth wall. All this stuff that Teresa said about John Fuda, I feel like she planted those seeds with the media or the public via her bloggers that she pays or quid pro quo um, shares stories with. Anyways, that's a whole other debacle. And you guys know when I do these recaps for Jersey, I try not to get into the blogger mess that is unfolding as the season airs. But anyways, that was a quick side note. Um, Now, Jen makes it very clear she's not going to go into the situation like Margaret, like full on picking sides. And honestly, we got to give props to Jen Fessler for standing her ground and being like, yeah, I'm Margaret's friend, but that doesn't mean I'm going to listen to Margaret's every whim and I'm going to like jump and, when she tells me, or no, what is it? I'm going to jump how high when she tells me to jump. Like, no, Messy Fessy is not gonna do that. Anyways, Rachel thinks Jen Flessler should just, I don't know, move on and like let go of like the John Fuda stuff. She's like, just don't come between, Teresa, Louis, John Fuda, and me. And I understand that. It's like, you know what? Messy Fessy, don't touch it because it is so dirty with PI and lawyers and whatnot involved. Anyways, these two, Rachel for some reason is still crying. I don't know, maybe she has allergies, who knows. And they hug it out. They seem to end off on a good note, the hugging and all. And Rachel, girl, I feel like you're like me. Like, no, don't come for our makeup. Like, give us a hug. Actually, don't even give us a hug, but don't come for our makeup. All right, so then we get to pretty much the best part of the show. Olivia, who is Jennifer Aydin's daughter, she honestly, every single time she's on screen, she steals the show. She has a birthday party for her little pooch that she is holding, and she wants to have a doggy fashion show. She wants all the dogs to dress up, which I thought was so cute. We see Gia with one of the, I don't know, I guess one of the family dogs. We see Dolores with one of 10 dogs that she could choose from within her family. Olivia has this cute little fashion show. And of course, the ladies chit chat, which we will get to. As guests are coming in and they're doing some last minute preparations, Olivia, the AKA the scene stealer, there's some doggy biscuits. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love these little bitch ones on the biscuit. And then she's like, oh, B apparently means lady dog, and biscuits a lady dog. She's a bee, lady dog, bee, lady dog, biscuits my bee. Anyways, she is hilarious. I honestly think Miss Little Olivia is carrying the Real Housewives of New Jersey this season. Like every single time this little girl is on our screens, it's just like hilarity. There's really nothing more to say on that. We're gonna get back to Miss Jackie, but Miss Jackie Goldschneider, she did make it to Jennifer Aydin's house. They seem to be buddy buddies. And what's her name? Dolores is like, oh my God, I'm like in the Twilight Zone. So all the ladies, once the dog show is done, all the ladies, including Gia, and this lady who's a hairdresser, they're sitting down at the table. But I thought Dolores's insight was so interesting because when we watched Dolores, yes, she plays Switzerland, but Dolores feels like one of us chiming in, like we're looking around and we're like, something's not right here. So, anyways, Jackie is invited to Jennifer Aydin's house. They seem like they're best of buds now. So, that's interesting. We're going to get into the mess that is the drama between Danielle, who is not at this puppy party, and somehow we have her one-time hairstylist at this party. And honestly, it's all thanks to this woman. This woman, her name is Jennifer Aydin. Let's meet her for the 500th time. Just so you guys know, Jennifer Aydin loves to set things up and see mess. Just look at her. She wants to get her popcorn and see the mess play out. So, of course, Jennifer Aydin invites this hairstylist named Lena, and Jennifer Aydin lets Lena have the floor. Like, yes, continue. So, Lena basically brings up how now this is Lena's perspective, who really knows what, happened. Apparently, Danielle Cabral, I don't know, she had like some event. And Lena was, I forget how they like got acquainted, but Lena was like, "Hey girl, sure, I got you. Let me open up the salon. Come by, I'll touch up your hair." And I guess Lena also ended up going to this local event in Jersey. And there was some debacle about VIP wristbands. Danielle obviously had the VIP wristbands, and then they were like in the VIP area. And Lena, I guess, didn't have the VIP wristband, so she couldn't like go into that area. And then the people managing this event have a chat with Danielle. And in the end, this Lena chick, the hairstylist, she gets kicked out. And on top of that, she was like, "Yeah, and Danielle, she also didn't pay me." Look, here's my thought, opinion on it, and you guys feel free to chime in the comments below. Danielle is wrong because she should have paid the lady. No one is going to do free work. It is what it is, even if it's like a quick touch up. Like, have you seen the hair on Danielle's head? That's a lot of work. Danielle should have paid the lady. Now, the hairstylist. Why do you think you should have a VIP wristband for whatever party this is? Like, I just don't think, I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like if you are in certain industries and you get invited to things, just know your invitation, it is limited unless they say otherwise, like, "Hey girl, you're coming with us. Like, we're going to give you a wristband and everything. We roll out at this time." Otherwise, it's more of a you can, attend the event if you want sort of a thing. So I think both parties are wrong. Both Danielle, she should have paid, and then this lady, she should have just, I don't know, gone her on her merry way, not expecting a VIP wristband. And then we will, of course, get back to Jennifer Aydin, who is loving this mess. For whatever reason, why does she have a chip on her shoulders about Danielle Cabral? Like, if anything, Danielle Cabral should be pissed off at Jennifer Aydin for Jennifer Aydin and Teresa throwing her under the bus in the castle last season. Who else do we have? Oh, yeah. What's her name? Teresa made that joke when they were talking about what's her name? Margaret. Okay. First, I gotta say, if Teresa thought about this joke all on her own, props to her because let's be real, we don't really think of Teresa being like that witty. She's not really like fast on her feet. It was something to the extent like, "Oh, if Joe Binino comes to this like, puppy birthday party, dog birthday party, which bee is he gonna bring? Margaret or their dog? Ha ha, funny, No one laughed. It just it just didn't land, girl. No one laughed. Everyone just kind of like looked around the room or around the table. We got like one tiny little smirk from Jackie just to, kind of give like a nod, like I see you. But other than that, Teresa, just enough with the jokes. We don't need any jokes from you. Okay, I don't have a picture of Gia here. Gia was in attendance at this dog's birthday party and at the table talking to all the grown-ups. She's technically a grown-up now. Like I understand she's in her 20s, but it's just kind of weird seeing her in the mix of all these housewives that are obviously older than her with like families and all. Anyways, Gia lets us know that her boyfriend of 5 years actually works with Louis. For the life of me, I still do not understand what Louis does. I think in the Bravo community. We've kind of talked about it enough at nauseum. At this point, I've made peace with it. Louis does what Louis does. As long as he doesn't mess with Teresa and the girls, keep it pushing. All right, so it's moving day for Antonia, and she is getting settled into her dorm. And it seems like one of her best girlfriends is attending the same university as her, and they are in the same dorm together. I thought it was so cute that they had like this whole cohesive decor in their dorm. It just looked super cute. But before that, we see Melissa trying to teach Antonia how to do laundry. And she's like, you're going to put the detergent in, and the fabric softener has its own little spot. And Antonia's like, what's fabric softener? And, Melissa, of course, we see her like, oh my God, she's like at her wits' end. Look, guys, I remember when I was learning to do the laundry, like I would never mix my laundry with anyone else's until this day. I don't like mixing my laundry with anyone else's. That's just how I am. That's just who I am. It is what it is. And my mom would kind of help me out with the laundry, but then I feel like my mom was like super, what's the word? Like protective over the machine. Like she didn't want me to break it. I don't know how I would break it, but I don't know. That was my learning laundry experience. But anyways, we see Antonia going off to college, settling down. I thought it was funny how Joe Gorga, he didn't know it was a co-ed place that Antonio will be staying at. And obviously, as a father, as an Italian dad, that didn't go too well with him. And then just the montage of Antonia, it's really sad. It like obviously we've been watching these housewives for like over a decade plus, but then when we see the kids go off to college and all that good stuff, it's like, holy crap, what have I been doing with my life? Watching these people, kind of like Days of Our Lives. Like these reality shows, especially like the housewives, they are the modern day soap opera. One thing I want to mention about Joe Gorga, he did throw in that little jab when he found out that the dorms were co-ed. He said something to the extent like, "Oh, let me take out a page from Louis's book and get an investigator to follow her." Look, this episode, the only reason I'm covering it this at length or this in detail, this episode wasn't one of those like rah episodes where people are like fighting with each other. But this episode, I feel like it gave us a lot of like nuance and you kind of have to like listen carefully. All right, so we see all the couples getting ready for the baseball game. We see Danielle and Nate. He makes a funny joke, kind of goes over her head a little bit, but he gets his new cleats, but they're really not cleats at all. I do want to point out one thing about Danielle. I know she's not really known for her fashion, but I was thinking about this. I feel like Danielle is stuck in a time warp. I'm assuming she's a millennial, but she's like in the middle somewhere. She's like peak millennial. She's stuck in that like 2012 to 2016 era of makeup and hair. And there's nothing wrong with that, but times have changed. Her look might come across a little chuggy is I don't know what Gen Z apparently is using on millennials. Anyways, it's just a side note that I was thinking of when it comes to Miss Danielle Cabrera. We also see the Aydins getting ready for the baseball game. Um, Jen is like, "Oh, I'm gonna do braids for the game," and then Bill is like, "Oh, that's like very baseball of you," something to that extent. Look, when it comes to Jennifer Aydin, the doctor's wife, who she's so proud to be a doctor's wife, great for her, and Bill Aydin, I don't want to see Miss Amazon Fashion talking about her 16 bathrooms in Paramus. Buy a couple less Chanel handbags, get a stylist, and I think Jen Aydin would just look and feel amazing. That's my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. And in Bill's case, those husbands that are like, oh, my wife just spends so much. I would just want to see him be braggadocious about his wife's spending, but not like for dumb stuff, like for good stuff, like interesting stuff. I want them to be like that couple. I think they have it in them. Just, a couple tackiness things gotta go, switch it up, and I think they'll be on the right track. So, of course, once the Aydins get to the ball game, they will, of course, see Joe Gorga and Melissa Gorga. And Jen is sharing that she's okay with Margaret, but things are a little weird with Melissa still. In terms of Melissa, she has every right to be pissed off at Jennifer Aydin because Jennifer Aydin ran with that rumor about Melissa and some cheatation rumors. And she handed it over to Danielle last season. And then, of course, thanks to Danielle, Danielle took the bait and she brought it up on camera at the castle last season. And Melissa, right now, she thinks because of the Aydins, their loyalty to Teresa and Louis, she thinks Jennifer Aydin is just like coming up with more stuff to be mad at Melissa about. Now, as the couples are getting ready for the baseball game, we also see Rachel and John. And I guess Rachel was commenting on what John can wear to the game. And John is like, what do I look like? Joe Benigno? Help with getting dressed? Oh my God, Joe Benigno being the butt of the joke because Margaret just wants her man to look decent when he walks out of the house. All right, guys, this talk between Louis and John Fuda, it's been 4 episodes of them talking about this talk that needs to happen. And Teresa is like, John and Louis, they should talk. And then Louis's like, oh, if this talk were to happen between me and John Fuda, it would take 10 seconds. Okay, well, if it's only going to take 10 seconds, then get to it. We're on the 4th episode now, and these two still haven't squashed the beef, Louis and John Fuda. All right, this was actually a pivotal moment, or one of the, I guess, like the meat and potato of this episode. In the locker room, all the Jersey team, they're all coming into the locker room, getting ready, putting on their jerseys and whatnot. Danielle, she sees Jackie and Margaret, and Danielle is like, oh, so who invited you, Jackie, to Jennifer Aydin's puppy party? And of course, Danielle wasn't there, and that's when Aydin was talking crap about Danielle, which we already covered. But anyways, Danielle to Jackie is like, who invited you to Jennifer Aydin's party? Because Danielle is kind of confused, like, wait a minute, what wasn't there like a cheating rumor in the past, and now Jennifer Aydin and Jackie are friends? Like, it's weird, It's just like a lot of shifting. It's strange. And then Jackie calls out Danielle for not inviting Jackie to Danielle's shore house party, the one she had for Nate. Look, guys, in this group of, I've lost count, what is it, like 8 women, 10 women, whatever, someone's not going to like someone. Someone is not going to be invited to a party. Either you guys just suck it up and you're okay with not getting invited, or all of you at all times just invite everyone and, keep it cute, keep it moving. And then we get into it between Jackie and Margaret. Jackie, of course, Margaret is there. So Jackie is like calling out Margaret for not taking her side. And Margaret is like, I've always taken your side. And then Margaret throws a jab at Jackie because Margaret feels super, I guess, hurt that Jackie didn't check in on Margaret for Jan's passing, like the first anniversary of Jan's passing. And then honestly, guys, I kind of like lost the plot. These three or these two, they just kind of like get into it back and forth, back and forth. And it's just so weird because for all these seasons, we've seen Jackie and Margaret come in. Of course, they're not OGs of the show. They came in later on around the same time. And they were just like best of buds. They had each other's back. But let's be real, Margaret probably got the Evan rumor going, and Jackie probably found out. I don't know. I'm just calling it that. We, of course, get into the book drama between Margaret and Jackie. And Jackie, makes it very clear to Margaret, like, hey, the publisher sent it to people in the press. You are not the press. Also, what kind of friend is Margaret? Like, if one of my friends had a business, I'd be like, hey, how can I, buy whatever is for you? I wouldn't be asking for like a coupon or whatever, I'd be like, "Hey, when can I, pre-order your book?" Like that's what a friend does. But Margaret, for whatever reason, she feels like Jackie owes her a copy from the publishing house. Like I guess it's not even available yet. She wants to read the book. Well, you can read the book once you pre-order it. How about that? Anyways, good for Jackie. I think Jackie is finally, coming to her senses. She's seeing who, what's her face, Margaret is about. Since writing her book, it seems like Jackie, she grew some balls. She grew a pair, and she's just like in her confessionals about Margaret, you are not the centerpiece of my life. Like, good for you, Jackie. Like, keep up this energy, and you might get, a full-time seat next season. At the end of the spat these two had, it was kind of like sad to see because Jackie walks away and Margaret calls Jackie self-centered and a disgrace. And I just thought that was like quite off-putting. Like the drama between these two, I don't think that was called for the way Margaret behaved with Jackie. And of course, Miss Jennifer Aydin was in the locker room, just like looking over at what's going on. And this girl absolutely loved it. She was being like, quiet and coy in the background, like getting something from her locker or whatever. But inside, she was loving every minute of the spat between Jackie and Margaret. Now, I did think it was quite sweet, the exchange we saw between Teresa and the Gorga kids. So the Gorgas walk in, Melissa, Joe, their kids. Of course, Melissa and Joe Gorga are not on speaking terms with Teresa and Louis. However, that doesn't stop Teresa from giving a sweet hug to the Gorga kids. Like, why should they? Why should the kids, um, be part of the silent treatment? Like, no, they're the kids, and it makes you sad. It's like, really, you guys are missing all these beautiful times. Like, both of your daughters are off to college. These are amazing memories you guys could be sharing together, but here you are, not on speaking terms. It was so sweet to see Dolores basically saying this year she is playing for her friend Gertie. And of course, we saw the journey Gertie had on Real Housewives of Miami, battling cancer. She is now successfully in remission. And honestly, this is why we watch the show. We want to see the ups and downs between friends and family, whether that extends to other housewives and the housewives universe. Like that's a beautiful thing. That's what we want to see, not the toxicity with like lawyers and PIs involved. So the baseball game starts and Louis is up for batting, I guess. And the scene kind of like cracked me up because we see Jackie's husband, Evan, standing beside John Fuda. And when Louis is up to bat, what's his name? Evan is like, oh, that's your bestie. Because like that's just what you do when you have a friend and then you see their enemy. It's very like high schoolish, but you're like, oh yeah, that's your bestie. I don't know. I just thought that was like pretty funny. And this is why the husbands on New Jersey get a seat at the table. Margaret is just that girl with a bone to pick. Like, I don't understand this woman. Like, is there something else going on in her life where she is just taking it out on her fellow castmates? Like, Margaret brings up the whole Jackie situation again, which is just like, girl, you've already like brought it up enough times, and it just feels like Margaret bullies her friends. Like, it's either my way or the highway, like all or nothing, and like that's not how you maintain real long-term friends. And you know what? Good for Jackie. She's like finally over it, thinking for her own. And then I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about Margaret, but she also has a bone with Jen Fessler this season. And good for Jen for standing up to Margaret. Like, no, I'm good. Like, I will take people at face value. I'm not just going to go off on what Margaret, is saying to me. I think we're starting to see what's the word? The mask peel for Margaret. All these people in her corner are starting to see her for who she is. And I guess time will tell when it comes to Melissa and what's her name? Rachel, when it comes to them dealing with Margaret and seeing Margaret for who she is. We end off with the Gorgas versus the Aydins. Yes, but like not really. We see both Jen and Melissa talking to their respective hubbies. Jen to Bill, you're so easy. This is about respect because we see Joe Gorga and Bill Aydin just like being buds, like hugging it out. Like the thing is, the issue between the Aydins is really with Jen Aydin. It's not really about Bill, but obviously Bill is like collateral. He has to miss out on some good times with Joe Gorga because his wife, Jen Aydin, just won't let things go when it comes to Melissa slash the Gorgas. And finally, we see what's her name? We see Melissa and Joe go up to the Aydins, and Melissa is to Aydin like, hey, look, we can go for a chat. You can come over to my house. Joe Gorga, he can be there. He doesn't need to be there. Or if you're not feeling that comfortable, we could just like go out for lunch somewhere and we can have a chat. And honestly, like props to Melissa for doing that. I'm sure she wants no part with Jen Aydin. I truly just think Melissa and Jen Aydin are two different people and they can coexist. And I think that these are the first steps in them coexisting because if you kind of like have your ears out, it sounds like in terms of how the season went, Melissa and Jen Aydin might be on better terms by the end of the season. Look, guys, at the end of the day, all that truly matters is how much money was raised for the charity. And according to Dolores, it was extremely successful. This baseball game raised over $200,000, which beat their record for last year, which I believe was about like 125-ish. We see fireworks, we see some beautiful moments between all of the families, and it just was a great way to end the baseball scene. And I feel like this year, the baseball scene, they kept it to, I think, a minimum of like 2 segments of a show instead of like the baseball game taking over, I don't know, a whole episode or whatever. Cause I think at this point, we are getting a little bit tired of the baseball game. It just seems like Real Housewives of New Jersey is on repeat mode. And one other thing I will end off with, I don't have the image here, but Real Housewives of New Jersey, it seems like the ratings are falling off a bit. Like they are not near 1 million viewers. And but you know what? Like people are streaming more, so maybe that's the reason or people are just like bored of the same old, same old. All these teams, the baseball game, it's the same old, same old. We got to change it up. Anyways, guys, I know this recap was a little bit longer, but I feel like this episode, even though it wasn't very rah rah rah, no screaming matches, it was a very nuanced episode and worth discussing. I will continue to recap the Real Housewives of New Jersey season. Let me know your comments below what you thought of this episode. What would you rate it? Definitely subscribe here on Bravo Hot Tea, and I will catch you guys another time. Ciao.